A very good morning, students. Welcome to science session for class 9, and today in this session we are going to see another interesting chemistry lesson, that is unit 12, periodic classification of elements. Now in this lesson we are going to see the classification of the elements in earlier days, that is about the Dobrynier's classification, Newland's law of octaves, Mandel's periodic table. A very good morning, students. Welcome to science session for class 9, and today in this session we are going to see another interesting chemistry lesson, that is unit 12, periodic classification of elements. Now in this lesson we are going to see the classification of the elements in earlier days, that is about the Dobrynier's classification, Newland's law of octaves, Mandel's periodic table. So these are the classifications that is done in the earlier days. Then about the modern periodic table, now how it is classified into periods and groups, and classification of the element into blocks like S block elements, P block elements, D block elements and F block elements. At the last we are going to see the position of the hydrogen in the periodic table, position of the rare gases, and we are going to see informations regarding metals, non-metals, metalloids and alloys. Let's go into the session, children. All the elements that we see are unique in their nature and property, isn't it, children? Now in 1800 there were 31 known elements, and in 1865 the number had become 63. Now we have 118 elements, and the arrangement of their elements in an organized way becomes difficult, isn't it? Because more and more informations about the properties of the elements have been discovered by the scientists, and they found it difficult to organize these elements in an order. So they started looking for a pattern in the properties. It was found that the basic property can be the atomic number, and the modern atomic period was at last discovered. Now here we are going to first discuss about the concepts of classification that was proposed by various scientists in the early times. So first we are going to see about the Dobrynier's triads. Now in 1817 the German scientist Dobrynier suggested that the arrangement of the elements can be based on their atomic masses. Now here he arranged the elements into a group of 3. Each group contains 3 elements, so those are called as triads. Now he also suggested that the elements that are arranged in the triad can be in their ascending order of their atomic masses. Now if you see the atomic number of the middle element, it will be nearly the same as the average atomic masses of the other 2 elements that is placed in the group. Now this is called as the Dobrynier's law of triads. Now here you can see in the table it is being divided into 3 groups, and each group contains 3 elements. Now if you see the first group, that is, it consists of lithium, sodium and the potassium, isn't it? So we can find the atomic mass of sodium by adding the atomic masses of lithium and potassium and divide by 2, so that you can get the atomic mass of the sodium. So it is arranged in such a way that the atomic mass of the middle number is nearly the same as the average atomic masses of the other 2 elements. Now let's see the limitations of the Dobrynier's. Now here he has identified only the 3 triads, isn't it? Now with the elements that is found at that time, all the elements could not be classified in this form of triads. This triads is not applicable to the elements with high atomic masses and also with the elements with low atomic masses. Next we'll see the Newland's law of octaves. In 1866, John Newland arranged 56 elements in their increasing order of their atomic masses. Now he observed that every 8th element had the similar property with that of the first element, and this arrangement is called as law of octaves. Now Indian music consists of the 8 notes, isn't it? The first and the last notes look similar, isn't it? So similarly the 8th element have similar properties with that of the first element. element. Now this also had some limitations. Now before we see the limitations, look into the table, children. So this is the Newland's law of octaves. Octa means 8, so it has been arranged in such a way that the 8th element resembles the first element in their properties. Now let's see the limitations. Now the first limitation is that now some elements are placed in the same slot. For example, if you see in the table, cobalt and nickel are placed in the same slot. Next is, some elements are totally dissimilar in their properties in the same group. For example, if you see the cobalt, nickel, platinum, palladium and iridium is placed along with the halogen groups. Now here in the first row you can see that it consists of fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and it also consists of cobalt, nickel, palladium, platinum and iridium. So this has dissimilar properties. Now these metals are different from that of the halogens, isn't it? So this is one of the limitation. Next is, the law of octaves is not valid for elements with higher atomic masses like calcium. This Newland's law of octaves is restricted only to the 56 elements and it do not give any space for the new elements if discovered. Now the discovery of the inert gases that was done later on made that the 9th element similar to that of the first element. For example, neon between the fluorine and the sodium. So these are the limitations of the Newland's law. Next we'll see the Mendelev's periodic table. Now in 1869, Russian scientists have discovered that the elements are similar and repeat at regular intervals when they are arranged in their atomic masses. So based on that, he proposed that law of periodicity. Now this law of periodicity states that the physical and the chemical properties of the elements are their periodic function of their atomic masses. Periodic function in the sense it repeats at regular intervals. That is, the properties of the elements repeats at regular intervals, isn't it? So the physical and the chemical properties are their periodic function of their atomic masses. So he arranged all these known 56 elements that was known at that time into the table or into an periodic table, and that is called as law of periodicity, and it is also simply called as periodic table. Now what are the features of Mendelev's periodic table? It consists of 8 vertical columns which is called as groups and 7 horizontal rows which is called as periods. Now each group is further divided into subgroups, that is A and B, and all the elements appearing in a group were found to be similar. If you take the groups, all the elements in a group are similar. If you take the period, all the elements in the period are similar in their properties. Now for the first time, elements were classified in such a way that the elements of similar properties were placed in the same group or in the same period. So it was noticed that the atomic masses of the certain elements was determined wrongly. Because of the wrong determination of the atomic masses of a few elements, it was placed in a wrong position. Now for example, if you take the atomic mass of beryllium, it was assigned as, or it was determined as 14. Now Mendeleev discovered that the atomic mass of the beryllium is 9 and not as 14, and he has given a proper position for beryllium. Now columns were left vacant for the elements which were not known at that time, but it can be discovered later on, and he predicted the properties of these elements, and this gave a motivation for the scientist also to discover more elements. For example, if you see, Mendeleev gave the name Eka silica or Eka aluminium to those elements which can be placed below the aluminium or silica, and he also predicted their properties. Later discovery of germanium during his period proved that he is correct, and he has given on proper position for the elements which could be discovered later on. Now if you see the limitations of the Mendeleev periodic table, elements with large difference in their properties are included in the same group. For example, if you take copper and silica, it is included along with the soft metals like sodium and potassium. And he could not give proper position for the hydrogen. Non-metallic hydrogen is placed along with the lithium, sodium and potassium. So he could not give a proper position for the hydrogen, which has a unique property. Now the increasing order of the atomic masses were also not strictly followed. For example, if you see cobalt, nickel, and if you see tellurium and iridium, so there is not a strict order is not followed, and no place for the isotopes is given in the periodic table. So these are the limitations of the Mendeleev's periodic table. Next comes the modern periodic table. Now in 1913, English physicist Henry Moseley, now with this experiments, that is X-ray diffraction experiments, proved that the properties of the elements do not depend upon the atomic masses, but it depends upon the atomic number. So he modified it and gave as modern periodic table, in which the elements are arranged in their increasing order of their atomic number. This modern periodic table is the extension of the original Mendeleev's periodic table, and it is also called as long form of periodic table. Now here the atomic number of the element, which is denoted by the Z, indicates the number of protons as well as the number of electrons. You can say the atomic number is nothing but the number of protons or the number of electrons. So the physical properties and the chemical properties of the element do not depend upon only the protons, but also depends upon the electrons and their arrangement, that is the electronic configuration. So the Mendeleev's periodic table is modified and the modern periodic law was stated, and it states that the chemical and the physical properties of the elements are periodic function of their atomic masses. So based on this, he derived a table which is called as modern periodic table. Now let's see the features of modern periodic table. Now here in the screen you see the modern periodic table, isn't it? Now here you can see that all the elements are arranged in their increasing atomic number. Now here you can also observe the horizontal rows and the vertical columns, isn't it? Now if you count and see, there are 7 horizontal rows, and these horizontal rows are called as periods, and there are 7 periods in the periodic table, that is modern periodic table. And there are vertical columns, isn't it, starting from top to bottom. This is called as vertical columns, isn't it? And these vertical columns are nothing but the groups, and there are 18 groups in the periodic table, and the elements are placed in the periods based on their number of shells in their atoms. Now based on the number of cells, it is placed in the periods. Now based on the physical and the chemical properties, they are also grouped into various families. I'll show you. Look into the screen, children. So it is grouped into various families, isn't it? So group 1 is called as the alkali metals, group 2 is alkaline earth metals, group 3 to 12 is called as the transition metals, group 13 is called as the boron family because the first element is boron, and 14 is called as the carbon family. Again the first element is carbon. 15, the first element is nitrogen, so nitrogen family. 16th, it is called as oxygen family or chalcogen family because the first element is oxygen, and 17th is halogen, so all the halogens comes under, that is chlorine, fluorine, bromine, iodine comes under this family, and the 18th is nothing but the noble gases, rare gases or the inert gases. Now we know that the electrons in an atom occupies these shells, isn't it? Now we know that these shells are also further classified into subshells, and these electrons are distributed in these subshells, and these subshells are given the variables S, P, D and F, isn't it? Now based on the arrangement of the electrons in these subshells, the elements of the modern periodic tables are classified into 4 blocks, namely the S block elements, P block elements, D block elements and F block elements. Now here you can see, isn't it, the groups marked from 1 to 18, isn't it? So this is classified into blocks. Now first we'll see the S block elements. Now this includes the first group and the second group. Here you can see the first group and the second group, isn't it? So this comes under the S block elements. So the alkali metals and the alkaline earth metals together is called as S block elements, and they are also called as representative elements. Now except hydrogen in the first group, you can neglect hydrogen in the first group, then all the elements in the first group are metals. So when they react with water, they form a solution which can change the color from red to blue. The solution is said to be highly alkaline. So since they change the color from red to blue, these solutions are highly basic, or you can say alkaline. Basic can also be said as alkaline. So they are called as alkali metals. Now if you see the elements of group 2, they are also metals. When they combine with oxygen, they form the oxides, and these oxides are in the early days were called as earths, right? And these oxides, when they dissolve in water, they also show the property of the basics, that is alkaline. So these elements are called as alkaline earth metals. Next we'll see the P block elements. Now the elements from 13 to 18. So all these elements, I've put a tick mark, isn't it? So all these elements from group 13 to 18 in the periodic table comes under P block elements. Now they include boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, that is the halogen family, and the noble gases. Now these are also called as representative elements. Now the P block element consists of the elements of biggest variety, isn't it? And all the elements in these three groups contains metals, non-metals, and the metalloids. Next we'll see what are D block elements. This includes group 3 to 12. All these you can see here, isn't it? All these comes under the D block elements. That is from group 3 to 12 comes under this block. Now these are found in the center of the periodic table, isn't it, children? Is it in the center of the periodic table? Yes, isn't it? So their properties are also intermediate between the S block elements and the P block elements. So they are called as transition elements. Next we are going to see the F block elements. Now here at the bottom of the periodic table you can see two horizontal rows, isn't it, children? Now I put a tick mark, isn't it? So this is the F block elements. Now this includes 14 elements of lanthanoids and 14 elements of actinoids. They are placed at the bottom of the periodic table, and they are also called as inner transition elements. Now let's see the advantages of modern periodic table, children. This table is based on the fundamental properties, that is atomic number, isn't it? Now here these elements are arranged in their increasing atomic number. Now this correlates the position of the element with its electronic configuration. There is a close relationship between the position of the element and its electronic configuration. Now the completion of each period is also more logic, right? In a period, as the atomic number increases, the energy shells is increasing, isn't it, till it reaches the inert gases. So it is easy to remember and reproduce also. If you take a particular group or the particular period, it is easy to remember the elements under a particular group or particular period. Now each group is an independent group, and the ideas of the subgroup can be discarded. There is no subgroup, isn't it? So independent groups, each group is independent, so there is no subgroup. So it is very, very easy to remember and reproduce. Now one position for one isotope of an element is justified. So since the isotopes have the same atomic number, the position of the isotopes is also justified. Now in the Mendeleev's periodic table, we said that the position of the 8th group, isn't it, is also justified. Now all the transition elements have been brought in the middle, isn't it, as the properties is intermediate between the right and the left, isn't it? So we said that the transition elements have intermediate properties between the S block and the P block, isn't it? So the position of the 8th group is also justified in the modern periodic table. Now the table completely separates the metals from metalloids. The non-metals are present in the upper right corner of the periodic table. And here you can see in the modern periodic table on the screen, there are different colors that is being given for the metals, metalloids and non-metals. Now the position of certain elements which were first interchanged in the Mendeleev's periodic table is now justified because it is placed in their increasing atomic number of the elements. Even the position of the lanthanides and actinides is also justified because it is placed at the bottom of the periodic table. Now let's see the position of hydrogen in the periodic table. Now hydrogen has a very unique property. It is the lightest, smallest and the first element in the periodic table. And if you see the electronic configuration also, since it contains only one proton, since the atomic number is 1, the electronic configuration is very, very simple, 1s1. So it occupies a unique position because it has unique properties. It behaves like alkali metals as well as halogens in its property. Now if you see the unique property of the hydrogen, now it can lose an electron to form the H plus ions like alkali metals. Now if you see the alkali metals like sodium, it loses an electron and becomes Na plus, isn't it? Similarly, hydrogen can also lose an electron to form H plus, and it can also gain an electron to form H minus ion like halogens. Now fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine can gain an electron and form F minus, Cl minus, Br minus and I minus, isn't it? So similarly, hydrogen can also behaves like halogen. Alkali metals are solids while the hydrogen is gas. So it has a very, very unique property. Still the position of the hydrogen in the periodic table is under debate because of its unique properties. Now let's see the position of the rare gases. Now these elements like helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon comes in the 18th group, and these are monatomic, right? They do not form diatomic molecule and they do not react with any other substances or the elements due to their complete filled orbitals. Now outermost orbital is filled, isn't it? It consists of 8 electrons in the outermost orbitals, so it is highly inert. They are called as inert gases because they do not readily react with the other substances, and they are also found in very, very small quantities, so they are called as rare gases. Now let's see about metals, metalloids and non-metals. Now I said that in the periodic table it is given different colors, isn't it, to identify the metals, metalloids and the non-metals. Elements with blue color is the metals, the element with pink color is called as the metalloids, and with green is called as the non-metals. So with the colors we can identify whether it is a metal, non-metal or metalloids. Now metals have unique properties, isn't it? It is hard, shine, malleable, ductile. It can be beaten into sheets, that is malleability. It can be drawn into wires, that is ductility, and it has good conductor of heat and electricity, isn't it? Now except the mercury, which is the liquid metal, all the metals, most of the metals are solid at room temperature, and metals occupy larger area in the periodic table. Most of the elements are metals. Now if you see alkali metals, lithium to francium from top to bottom is metals. Alkaline earth metals from beryllium to radium from top to bottom. Transition metals from group 3 to 12 is metals, and p block elements, that is aluminium, gallium, tin, bismuth, all these are metals. Now if you see the non-metals, non-metal is an element that do not show any of the characteristics of metal, isn't it? Now like hardness, shine, malleability, ductility do not show anything like that. Now non-metal is an element that do not have the properties of the metals. Now all the non-metals are arranged in the P block only in the P block it is arranged. So P block non-elements, for example, you can say carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, halogen, that is chlorine, bromine, iodine and fluorine, and the inert gases comes under the non-metals. Now if you see metalloids, these have both the properties of metals and metalloids. For example, you can say boron and arsenic. We'll see what are alloys. Now you will be surprised if I say that the idea of making an alloy is quite old, children. Bronze was found and people named it as bronze, which is an alloy of the copper and the tin, isn't it? So the idea of making alloy is quite old. Now what is alloy? Alloys are the mixtures of two or more metals, that is by mixing the molten metals, that is in the liquid state. Now rarely non-metals are also mixed with the metals to form the alloys. Mostly the metals are combined together to form the alloys. Now why is the alloying done? Alloying is done because it has many advantages. Now here in the picture you can see, isn't it, the name of the alloy, the metals that is used to prepare the alloy and the uses. So it is more useful than the original pure metals. So alloying is done. Now let's see the advantages of alloys. Alloys do not get corroded. So if it is corroded, to very less extent. Now alloys are stronger, harder than the pure metals. Now for example, if you see gold, when it is mixed with copper, it becomes more harder, isn't it? So it is harder than the pure gold. Alloys have less conductance than the pure metals. For example, copper is a good conductor of heat and electricity, where brass and bronze are not very good conductors of heat and electricity. Now some alloys have low melting point than the pure metals. For example, if you take solder, which is an alloy of lead and tin, have low melting point than the constituent metal. Now when alloying is done with mercury, then it is called as amalgam. If one of the metals in the alloying is mercury, then it is called as amalgam. So this is about the advantages of alloys. Now with this we come to the end of the lesson, children. Now in this lesson we have learnt about Dobrynier's triads, Newland's law of octaves, Mendeleev's periodic table, modern periodic table, what are groups, periods, how it is been arranged in the periodic table, what are the various families in which the groups are arranged, and about the blocks, isn't it? 4 blocks, how the elements are classified into 4 blocks. Then we saw informations regarding metals, non-metals and alloys. Now your homework for today is that you are going to write the limitations of Mendeleev's periodic table in page number 140 and 141. Features of modern periodic table from page 141, and pages of alloys from page 145. Now write these questions in your classwork and submit the classwork in the school office. It will be corrected and given back to you as soon as possible, children. Please do complete your classwork on time and submit in the school office. Let's see in another session, children. Thank you.